Growing up in North Carolina, in order to be as enthused about snowboarding as I was living in Raleigh, one resorted to VHS and DVDs to get stoked. Some of you may be very familiar with this approach, and even perhaps with some of the production companies such as Standard Films and MacDog Productions. Well, those were great, but it was a small crew which made up Robot Food that absolutely had me watching videos over and over, and among that crew was Jussi Oksanen. Jussi was always one of a handful of my favorite writers to watch year after year. His style was fun, his creativity was clear, and I truly believe Robot Food wouldn't have been the same without him. Long story short, in combination of Instagram DMs and our mutual friend Matt, we set up a time to record, and I'm thrilled to share it with you today. Though retired from snowboarding, Jussi is still very much outdoors, though behind the camera as a commercial photographer producing images with the same sort of stoke-inducing outcomes. We chat cars, his snow career, cycling, of course watches, and I'll have you know Jussi's a real one. I hope you enjoy it. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard H Podcast. Well, Jussi, thanks so much again for the hospitality and for having me at your house, no less. Such a cool room surrounded by snowboards, bike stuff, and jerseys from the likes of Nagano 1998. Like, just insanity to me. We were just talking cars a moment ago. What was your first car?
Ooh, my first car, I think it was a blue Fiat a van.
Really? A van?
And my dad had a construction company, so he could write it off. So then I could get it cheaper and
resourceful.
And it was actually perfect because for traveling and snowboarding and doing all that stuff is just, you just throw all your stuff in there and go camping and snowboard and whatnot.
I had a station wagon as my first car, and for similar reasons, it was like you just threw your bikes in, you threw your gear in. When you're 16, it's just like, it gives you that freedom to just go.
Yeah, I had a station wagon, so that was my first car, and then I had a station wagon, and I think I was 19 or 20, and then that was awesome because in Finland we used to do like road trips all the way to Europe and go snowboarding some of the glaciers and then go out to Italy and hit the beaches and drive home.
How long would it take you to drive to Italy?
So you can take a ferry from Helsinki to Germany.
Okay.
And then it takes you like a day.
You hit the Autobahn and you're off.
Yeah, you're at full gas.
Yeah, that's sick.
Or you can go take a ferry over to Stockholm and then go through Stockholm, Denmark, and all the way down, which is really cool too.
That's got to be gorgeous, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So were you one of the pros with an S4 Avant back in the day? Like, I feel like that was like the go-to car.
I had a BMW. So I had a 530 station wagon, and then I had 330 diesel station wagons.
Sick.
So those were my go-tos.
What's your daily driver now?
We have Tesla Y, which is like our rip-around car, and then Toyota 4Runner.
Oh, cool.
And that's beat to shit, but it's reliable.
Yeah. Toyotas are great.
Does the job well.
Well, and you're also an Encinitas, so it's like, if it's not a Tacoma, it kind of has to be a 4Runner, right?
Yeah, so when I did my snowboarding, I always had Toyotas, like the Tacomas and...
Yeah. What's the hardest trick that looks easy?
Honestly, I think like straight airs, like good, like a method.
Yeah,
is hard, like, especially if you go big. Yeah, if you're going like 50 foot plus, like doing a clean straight air, like I don't know if I've done one actually.
I guess. I always think of like the backside 180, like the Devon Walsh off of a cliff, but like I didn't even think about a straight air off like a cheese wedge, like. Yeah, that's hard. Why you grab it too, because
it's hard because you have so much time, and then you can't. Yeah, it's if you're spinning, you're just there's a flow to it, right? So if you're doing like back 3 or 7, just it just sort of flows, and you can kind of wrap it up quicker, but straighter, you just have so much time. And especially if it's like a big jump, it's like it's easy to grab your board, and then like if you're a little bit off balance, you start flapping around and
rolling up the windows. Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. I didn't even think of that being the answer, really. That's fascinating. What so like when you were pro, like who was your favorite snowboarder?
Well, so I grew up in the small town. We had like this tiny little ski resort. It was 150 vertical feet. You know, it's like a little hill. It's like Beacon's Cliff.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so the first there was a couple of the older guys. They were the first heroes.
Right.
They were like the pioneers, and we're lucky because we had a couple of really, really good snowboarders. So like you instantly had somebody to look up to.
Right.
And then I think from there was like all the Scandinavian pros like Terje and Daniel Frank, Ingemar, Johan, just because it was maybe a little bit more relatable, you know?
Yeah. Did any other pro have like a graphic that you were jealous of where you were just like, dude, I wish that were my board?
No, but I loved graphics. I think there's so many iconic graphics from back in the days. And then, you know, like you got the Jamie Lynn, he painted all those, like the cat ones and lip deck ones, and those were like super cool. And then contrast to that, there was like all the, like the Peter Lines, Joyrides. Obviously, Terje had a bunch of iconic ones. Yeah, there's so many. Like Daniel Frank had that fish.
Yeah.
K2, that was dope. There's this, and I don't know, I think it like represents era for me as well.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
But yeah, timestamp, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then I got my boards over there. There's that's from, I think the Lamar was 99, and then from Burden it went to from 2000 till 2009. Pretty random, to be honest. There's like me on the bike, me on the penguin.
It's like you. There's two penguins. One's throwing up a peace sign.
Yeah,
like,
I think
was that your idea?
Yeah, so I had my friend. He was he's still super talented graphic designer. So he designed all these, and we would sort of like sit down and think about some ideas, and had some kind of basic ones, and then we just started throwing some random shit out there. Just to do
that one's
different.
Hilarious. I love that one.
That one is cool because it has in the bottom it has a huge peace sign. Nothing else.
Right.
So that was actually pretty cool because it like stands out on the photos and videos, and kind of looks cool. Looks different.
So like, how would your pro model compare to like the standard line in Burton back then? Like, were you more along the lines of like a custom, or like were you more like?
Yeah, it was kind of custom. It started like stiff custom, and then it started getting a little bit softer, but like somewhat custom-ish. Yeah.
And that was just springy for the park, I guess.
Yeah, it was kind of like everything board, you know, like you could ride park or backcountry.
Nice.
Yeah.
How is like the board design process? Like, how is that different and or similar to like the apparel design that you were doing?
Well, it's
or like the clothes that you would wear.
Yeah, so there's like everybody kind of runs different. Like some people are like super particular, like I want this radius, I want this, and for me, to be honest, I was sort of like custom. This is great.
Right.
It's just let's throw some graphic. It's fine. Like that. My first Lamar pro model. That was a small brand based from here, and that is probably one of the worst snowboards ever made. Like seriously, like you could probably buy a board from Walmart for $100 and it would be better than that.
Really?
And that was just fine. Like, I was like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, but was that a byproduct of you like being on either flow or paid? Like you're getting free shit at that point, so you're just like, I'll take it.
No, I think it's just like for me, like growing up, like Finland, and we weren't like poor or anything, but we didn't have a ton of money, so it's just you just run whatever you have,
Right.
you know. So like when I started snowboarding, it was just you were grateful to have a snowboard,
Yeah.
and you just ride it.
Right.
And then, you know, if you get an upgrade, it's like whatever you can afford or you buy used or whatever, like that's just a tool to do what you want to do. And so like I never, like, sure, I appreciate it, like the quality of it. And I think honestly, like coming from Lamar where the boards were so shitty to Burden where like it's such a, you know, best in business as far as product go. So when I started like testing boards and just rode custom, it was like, okay, like I mean this is like
Yeah.
100 times better,
Right.
and it's just fine.
You can tell the difference immediately.
Yeah, and then like over time, like I definitely started like playing around with different things, and like towards like maybe 2008, I started kind of customizing my flex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we started trying like flat boards, so instead of camber,
Right.
or like reverse camber, we started making the flat boards, and then messing with flexes, so where I would have a soft flex in the middle and then super stiff nose and tail.
Interesting.
So in the powder, like for me, like reverse camber was kind of challenging because if you lean back, you kind of like it's easy to swoop out because you can't lean too much on your tail because it doesn't support it so much. And then camber is great if you like riding, you know, you get that pop if you're riding in the park and stuff, but like riding powder doesn't really matter so much, at least not for me. So like having it soft flex in the middle, you could still sort of like pull your front foot and get that flow, kind of like what you would get from reverse camber. Mm-hmm. But then you still have your nose and tail to lean back on, so you could you know, ride out of jumps and cliffs. And
I imagine that would probably help a little with fatigue as well, just having that softness to aid in that way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we just did a bunch of stuff with bindings too, like different. I had 6 ankle surgeries.
Really?
So like my range of motion, like forward, is pretty poor.
Wow.
So then we started doing like little wedges underneath the sole for the boots, which was pretty cool. But then we started doing the base plates too. So we started putting more raise on the heel,
like a heel lift,
and that was a game changer.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, so like all of a sudden, like you would basically get, I don't know, 10 degrees plus flex on your ankles because your heels are lifted like that.
Being helped, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a little weird at first, but like once you get used to it, like it's awesome.
So was like the common consumer aware of that, or was that just like a custom thing you did?
We just did it. So Burden had all these like engineers and guys who worked on bindings or boots or boards. You could just go and just 101. It's like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And then they would just make shift stuff. And some of them would probably end up in a line, and some of them didn't. But
okay,
yeah, it was pretty cool to have that as a part of, you know, part of the program.
Something tells me you weren't quite as particular with the clothes, like your jackets and pants, just because of like your ankle surgery, for example, would like force you to be picky, quote unquote.
Yeah, so I run the AK line.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar, that's the high-end Gore-Tex. So basically my whole career with Burden I was on AK.
Amazing.
And AK was just like pretty basic. Yeah. But then I had a pro model jacket for 3 years with AK, and we made an anorak, And that was like, we designed a whole piece and we did some fun stuff with that. So that was pretty cool.
What was sort of the beginning stages of Robot Food, which is my personal favorite videos of all time? Like why did that company start exactly?
So that was our group. So we were filming for Standard Films, which was one of the biggest production companies at the time. It was Standard Films and MacDog.
Sure.
And it was sort of our little group that we filmed together for Standard. I think we did 3 films with Standard, and then, which was awesome.
Sure.
Like, you know, basically Mike Hatchett, who owned the production company, if it wasn't for him, I think we would have been total shit show. Like,
Right.
they kind of thought it, like, kind of how to be, you know, how to run like the whole program, you know, just the work ethic, the where to go, what to do. And so we learned a lot like from them. And then I think it was just our group of friends, we kind of felt like we wanted to go a little bit different direction. Mm-hmm. It was just, they programmed that, which was great, but it was kind of same old every year. And we felt like we wanted to show snowboarding maybe a little bit like different light, a little bit more fun, and kind of, you know, just show different aspects of snowboarding, not just the bangers. And yeah, that's sort of where the idea came from. And it was pretty creative group too. Like we had Travis Parker, David Benedict, Chris Engelsman, Bobby Meeks. But it was like creative collective, and then we sort of came up with the name. And and honestly, like I don't think we even had like really idea like how we wanted to make these movies. It just sort of happened that way. Yeah.
You kind of took the words out of my mouth, because I always considered them and sort of labeled them as like the most creative. Like, who was editing those? Because I also, with like the editing and the graphics again, like,
Yeah.
they were just always just so different, and it just felt so fresh. You know what I mean? Like, who was doing the editing primarily?
Yeah, so Jess Gibson was one of the filmers, and he sort of came more like the standard way. So he had like the clean cut, like, you know, had it all dialed. Then we had Pierre Vikberg, who had done some stuff with MacDog, but came from more like a skating background.
Okay.
So then he introduced like a little bit different flair to all that. And I think it was a lot of the music stuff too, like he brought in. But it was sort of a perfect blend, because it was just like very like technical, and then Pierre was more like artsy.
Yeah.
So those two worked well together. And then it was, I think I would say like probably the most creative influence was Travis Parker.
He was a favorite of mine as well.
Yeah, like he was super involved. And yeah, I don't know who came up with the logo, but like I'm sure he was involved. But like a lot of stuff came from Travis, as far as like just the silly stuff and ideas and music and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was like between your videos and like the DC Mountain Lab stuff, like those were just always so fun. And like the outtakes were priceless, of course.
Yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with Travis?
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah.
I talked to him. I think last time I talked to him was maybe 6 months ago.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's just everybody just sort of goes different ways.
You mentioned music. That was the other part of those videos that I just thought was super fresh as well, because like you'd like use old stuff and modern stuff, and like what was your approach for like picking music? Even did you pick your own part? Or?
Yeah, it was that was definitely like Pierre and Travis, and
Okay.
yeah, I was just kind of fine with it, anything.
Right. You're so go with the flow with boards and music. Yeah, just let me ride, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I do like appreciate
Sure.
like good things, but like I've been lucky that I've been surrounded with people that know what's up, and I can just kind of roll. roll with it.
What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
It was definitely hip hop. I don't know which one would be, but I mean, it would probably be like Wu-Tang, Cypress Hill, something like that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
36 Chambers?
Yeah, I had Farside, De La Soul. Might have been like, honestly, might have been like Public Enemy actually, because that was like even earlier. But yeah, hip hop, strong hip hop.
What got you into hip hop in Finland?
It was just skateboard culture. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I got into skateboarding super young. I think it was like 6 or 7 when I discovered skateboarding.
Nice.
And then yeah, basically like everything came
From the videos and
skateboarding.
stuff.
I wasn't super into like that punk scene type of stuff, which was strong at the time too.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But yeah, hip hop was just something that kind of
I was an Eric Costin fan. Who was your guy?
Tom Penny.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I would just like whatever Eric's shoe was at the
Yeah.
time, like that's what I'm wearing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Skating was like honestly, if I could have been pro skateboarder, I would have been. That would have been my dream.
That's cool. Why were there only 3 videos?
Rubber food.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was so it started like very organically, and we're very passionate what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it, and I think it was really good what we did.
Yeah.
But it did for me. It started feeling like now we trying to do something funny or like just like it didn't felt that organic anymore.
Okay.
And so I just sort of felt like I wanted to move on. And then it was me and Ville. We left to go film with Mac Dog. So one of our friends, Brad Kramer, who had done some other videos before, he started working with Mac Dog. And we had conversation, and it sort of just felt right. Like, hey, let's do something different now.
Right,
and
right.
I think that was probably like huge part of my career that sort of kept changing rhythm and people to write with, and
Yeah.
because if you just do the same old, like you're just gonna get burnt out.
Right.
So I think it's good to expose yourself to different people and just have different influences. So
Yeah, I think it's smart. Otherwise, you're just getting older,
yeah,
you know? Like,
and it's like snowboarding too. Like what you do is it ends up being pretty. It's like a repetition, right? Like you somewhat do similar tricks. You start going to the same places. It becomes very routine like.
right.
So you have to find inspiration somewhere to like spice it up. Otherwise, yeah, you just get burnt out and
Totally.
yeah.
What's your relationship with snowboarding now?
I'm almost strictly snow surfing now.
Wow.
If I have a choice, I would just snow surf.
Okay, so I've never done that before. It is what it sounds like,
Yeah.
right? So you're searching for powder.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
that's a good first thing. So
Yeah.
you only go when it's
You
2 feet deep.
can't, yeah, you can't go otherwise, I'm assuming, because no bindings.
Yeah,
And then the board is sort of shaped like a fish.
yeah. So there's a bunch of different versions, but yeah, I mean you could take anything, but yeah, the boards now are pretty. They more or less made for that.
Okay. They're wider, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so you have like a pretty narrow tail. There's different pads or stuff, like a little bit of like the ones that I have. It has like this plastic kind of knobs,
Okay.
so it gives you a little bit of grip.
Like a stomp pad almost.
Yeah, your back foot, it's like all the way back in the tail. Yeah, like you said, a little bit of fish, like wider on the front. The bottom of the board is sort of like how boat is shaped. So like slightly, like you almost have like a fin. It's not a fin, but like it's slightly shaped like that.
Okay.
So like, because the only leverage you have, like in snowboarding, you have the bindings and then you have leverage edges, right? But
Right.
like when you're snow surfing, you don't have edges, or you don't use the edges the same way. So
Right.
like having that, the shape, the bottom can kind of leverage you. If you put your pressure on the heel, it kind of helps you turn a little bit better.
Got it.
But yeah, I just love how simple it is. It's just, it's almost like going skateboarding. You just grab your board and go. And it's the same with that. Like you have snowshoes or whatever you use to get up. And yeah, you have your board and you just, it's just, you know, you're in the forest just ripping pow.
So you're obviously not riding the chairlift for this, but so like how many runs would you do in a day, would you say?
So if I go to, like, we have a spot in Mammoth, and then I have like a couple little like foresty spots where I go to. It just depends on where the snow is good.
Yeah.
And then so the first one, if it's fresh, it takes a little bit time to do the boot back. So you have your snowshoes, and you know, if it's like 4 feet deep, like it might take you like 45 minutes to get the pack, and then you ride down, and then you probably do another one with snowshoes, and then you have like Stairmaster.
Oh, I
and
see.
then you can just do hot laps.
Oh, okay,
and
I see.
usually the spots where I go, you kind of have your boot track going up, and then you can just go either left side or right side, and just you have like endless fresh tracks.
Wow.
You can just move like 15 feet further, 50 feet further, and it's just these sort of open trees. So you have enough space to like kind of wiggle through the trees, and
You're really selling me on this.
it's steeper the better. And honestly, like what's cool about that is where I go, nobody goes skiing or snowboarding because it's not long enough for snowboarding or skiing to go hike.
I see.
Because it's like, okay, like snowboard, to get a legitimate turn, you would, I don't know, maybe get like 4 turns.
Right.
But
right.
on snow surf, it's like epic because you just ride a little bit different. It's like,
A little more flowy.
yeah, exactly.
Do you surf a lot? Are you in the
Yeah,
water?
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your-
Beacons is my spot.
Yeah.
I only go with my bike, so I don't drive to go surf.
Right.
So Beacons is the closest, and that's
That's
what it
cool.
is.
Nice, man.
Yeah. But yeah, it's got that surfy feel. It's very like kind of liberating, you know? Yeah. And then you could have a leash. I don't use a leash, but it's a good idea to have a leash because if you lose your board, it
4 feet.
might be a
Yeah.
bit of a hike.
Yeah, and you don't have your shoes on, right?
Yeah.
Like you're.
It's fun. I do still go up in the mountains sometimes, especially like, so my son, he's 16, he loves snowboarding, so sometimes I just go, if he just wants to go rip some pow with me, then
Yeah.
I have this board, this brand called Gentem.
Okay.
It's from Niseko, Japan, and they make these like powder boards. They call them like I think it's snow surf boards,
Okay.
but they very much like the snow surf feel on those boards, but they turn insanely well too.
So is your son riding something similar, or is he?
So
in a regular-
he rides like a normal board, but he's tried that on the powder days, and it's just it's incredible.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like 145, super short.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, super fun.
Yeah, like I said, you're selling me on this like hard.
It's fun.
So jokingly, I was telling you a little bit earlier before we started recording about how, you know, there's the line that Encinitas is where all pro snow shreds like come to die. How did you end up in Encinitas?
So this was one of my first places actually I came when I came to US, because
Really?
Lamar, my first sponsor, was based in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my team manager from Lamar, he was from here, and after Lamar finished, like late 90s, he became my agent,
Okay.
and he was from Encinitas.
Cool.
So then if I'd go anywhere, I would always come back and stay with them. And then also there's all the magazines were based here.
Sure. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Snowboarder,
Transworld.
Transworld. Yeah, there was a quite a bit of a like snowboard industry like business was based here too.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, it just became pretty familiar. This is where I learned surf, Cardiff Reef, when I was like 19. Yeah, always loved it, but I never thought I would live here. Um, when we got married 2005 in Finland, we knew we wanted to come to US, and we didn't really know exactly, like we were thinking more like northwest because I was spending a lot of time up in Whistler.
Sure.
So that was kind of original plan, and we were thinking Portland, and we actually put an offer in a house in Portland. And then my agent Steve, he had to go somewhere, so he called me like, "Hey, could you just come and stay in my house and just look after the dogs?" And then so we came down and we stayed here for a week, and
That was it.
and then that was it. My wife was like, "Okay, well, I don't want to go back to Portland."
Right.
And she's from England, so she had this kind of thing about California.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
the weather.
or just like, I don't know. She just didn't like, felt like it was like kind of certain way, being from England, So she kind of resonated more like the Northwest. But
Okay,
she
didn't
she
like
had never
California.
been
Got it.
here.
Got it.
So that was like, but she had this sort of like, I don't want to live in California or whatever. And then, yeah, so when we stayed here, she was like, okay, I don't want to go back.
Did you mentioned Whistler, which is one of my favorite places there, and Jackson Hole personally, but like, do you have a favorite mountain? Like, if you could only ride one mountain, regular snowboard, not snow surf. What was your favorite spot?
That's a tough one. I mean, there's just so many incredible mountains, but it probably had to be, I would say, Alberg Valley in Austria.
Okay.
It's just insane.
Really?
Yeah, just huge, huge mountains. Yeah, so many options. I'd love the whole, like the chalet, like the après and food and snowboarding, and yeah, it's just next level.
I don't know that I've ever heard of that. Actually.
So Alberg is a valley. So there's a bunch of resorts in the valley. So there's St. Anton, Leh, is it called Steuben? I think it's a smaller one. That's actually one of my favorite. I think he only had like 3 lifts.
Wow.
But yeah, it's epic. But honestly, like anywhere Europe is pretty awesome, especially like the smaller resorts that don't get the tourist traffic.
The traffic, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you could ride for two hours almost, like, if you go for all the way from top to bottom, like it's so big.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, so basically when you sort of ended your career, is that sort of when Mizu took off, the water bottle company?
So I retired from snowboarding 2015, and we started Mizu 2008.
Okay.
So it kind of already was going decently well. So was it 2008? Then I partnered with our current CEO. I think he was like end of 2000s, and then he kind of took over the business side of things, and that allowed me to stay on snowboarding. And then when I retired from snowboarding, that's when I came in and sort of run all the marketing stuff. Yeah. And that I kind of took over didn't take over, but I sort of like was really focused on the brand building with Mizu.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super fun. So I did that for 2 years, and then that sort of led me into commercial photography that I do now. So it was just the kind of wasn't planned, but it sort of just
right
happened. Yeah.
So that was sort of a byproduct of you shooting for Mizu?
Yeah. So photography has always been like my hobby and my part of my life. My mom was a photographer, worked in the dark room, so I was exposed to like shooting film from very young age. Right. And then when I was snowboarding, that was always like I always had a camera with me. This is actually like on the wall. We have tons of old photos.
Oh,
like,
cool.
More like snapshot style, just like a random lifestyle stuff.
Sure.
But yes, I was always into that. And then when I went back to Mizu, I started creating all the content for website and building the social and kind of learn the conversion too from content to sales and that side of things as well. And so that kind of took me into more or less the commercial side of photography, which I was super into it. It was fun. And then that led into shooting some other brands on the side. So I started doing some stuff for DC and some other
cool.
brands, and it was sort of like no real plan, just
Right.
kind of just doing it because I've loved doing it. And then, yeah, one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I almost had a choice that I could just do that or stay in Mizu. And for me, Mizu was already kind of in the good hands. Like I was able to sort of help navigate where the brand's going to be, what the look is, the message, all that stuff. And then Tim had like the business side of things pretty dialed. And obviously like we're still part owners. So like if he ever exit or anything, like that's where kind of our investment was.
Sure.
So then that allowed me to kind of sort of move on and start doing my own thing.
So are you involved in calls or anything like that
No,
anymore?
I haven't been involved really much like day-to-day basis at all. So just we meet with Tim like maybe quarterly, just like have a chat and just see kind of checking how things are going and stuff. But
So when you started shooting for like DC and such, did they just see what you were doing with Mizu and say, "Hey, could you do that for us?"
yeah, I think yeah. So the first one was like with DC was with Ika, so it was a friend of mine, and then he sort of told him like, hey, like I want Jussi to shoot this. Then I shot it, and then that led to another one, and
Right.
yeah, it was just
Yeah.
like super organically and randomly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Mizu was also very early days in like the e-commerce world. Like, what did you learn about e-commerce then that still applies today?
Well, I don't know what the landscape is now with e-commerce.
Okay.
I mean, I have no clue. I mean, at the time, it was like you said, it was pretty early. That was like when things were kind of booming.
Yeah.
You know, like it was fairly basic.
Okay.
I would say, like as far as like what you do. You know,
Right,
like you
right.
bring your social, you do your ads, your SEO, all that stuff. Like it seemed pretty straightforward to drive business,
Right.
and you could see the ROI pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
But as like sort of even in that 2 years, like it really started changing quick. So I don't know what that landscape is right now, because you know you probably have like direct stores now, whether it's TikTok or
Yeah.
you know I don't know. It's but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, no, all
It's a
good.
beast.
I mean, good for you. You know what I mean? Like to not have to worry about it as well is it must be nice. You know,
Yeah.
coming from my point of view, but like, so what's sort of your strategy in getting business these days? Like, how do you find your customer or client, or are you mostly just dialed into a few and you're just kind of have them?
Yeah, so I've been very lucky that I don't have a agent. I don't drive any business. Like I just post on Instagram and I have like pretty steady clients. And then like one thing always leads to another, and yeah, so it's pretty wild how it's like organically started from like doing bits with friends, and now like I've done shoots for Volkswagen, Starbucks, Specialized, Audi, like bunch of like a lifestyle space, you know, you name it. So yeah, it's fascinating how like that just sort of like has evolved to what I'm doing now. But um,
Well, I think it's great because like you've sort of created this business shooting the things you love,
mhm,
obviously. Cycling's huge, it seems, on in
mhm,
sort of your playbook.
mhm.
How and when did you get into cycling?
So cycling started. I had, like I said before, I had like 5, 6 ankle surgeries, and the last surgery I had was 2012. And the surgeon here, he was a big cyclist, and he told me like, hey, like if you don't start riding bikes, you're gonna be here in 2 years, like
So it's
for
more
another
like
surgery. And I was like, oh shit, okay,
so it's
like
more like a rehab thing.
rehab, yeah, totally. And the Burden had a relationship with Specialized, so they sent me a low end tarmac, like a road bike.
Sure.
And so then I just started doing it more like a rehab. um, yeah, and then sort of like just got more into it
You
and
enjoyed
met
it.
some friends, and all of a sudden like started doing some group rides, and like it was just interesting. And it's funny, like if somebody would told me 20 years ago that I'm like riding roads and wearing spandex, I'd be like, hell no.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a great journey, and it's been fun too. Like you said, bring that into photography.
Yeah.
Done work with Specialized. Done a lot of work with Envy. They're a company from Utah. They do like high end wheels,
Wheels, yeah.
and now they do bikes too. So I've been doing all their campaigns, and I wouldn't say I'm not bike specialized by any means. Like that's like I love doing that because I love bikes and photography, so it just
Sure.
makes sense. And
Right.
there's a lot of cool brands now, like in the apparel space, and obviously like accessories, and so there's a lot of brands around cycling.
Yeah.
So been doing quite a few campaigns and shoots around that, which is fun. But I would say like if you just did that for as far as like business side of things, that could be kind of challenging. So
Right. Right.
it's nice to have that as a like a side thing. And
Sure.
yeah, but the money's more in the like the corporate, like commercial stuff. Yeah.
How would you sort of describe your relationships with your clients then? Like, are they asking you to do specific things, or do you have like full autonomy?
I think a lot of people now just see what I do,
Right. Let you do
and they
you.
like just recently, I have quite a few brands reach out to me, and they just like, hey, I really love what you did this campaign, or whatever, and sort of just want that look,
Right.
which makes it easy because that's what I've done and that's
Right.
what I do.
Right. Right.
I have been working mostly directly with art directors at brands,
Okay.
and that makes it a little bit more streamlined too.
Sure.
So you work less with like agencies, and they work with the brands. So I find that it's way more productive
Yeah.
work directly with brands.
Fewer cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, just it's simplified. Um, I and like I think the brands save a lot of money, but it means like you have to have somebody like an art director or a creative director that they have a vision what they want.
Right.
And then it's a lot of just communication, what they're looking for. If they come to you, you establish like what are they looking for, what are the needs.
Right.
Just kind of go through the list, like what is the goal for the shoot.
Yeah.
And every brand is different. I do enjoy like more campaign based, which probably happens a little bit less now. It seems to become more like quantity versus quality
Interesting.
in lots of cases. Um,
Is that because businesses have like turned off like seasonal business and they've kind of, it's mostly product drops now?
yeah, I think so. And the frequency of content needed is
Yeah.
so huge.
Right.
So you just need like brands just need a lot of content. But
Are you storyboarding for these types of things, or are you kind of more like run and gun style, or like what's your
yeah,
process?
it depends. Like sometimes like sometimes you have to pitch, right? So you have to sort of like showcase like your campaigns, like what you done, and sort of like, curate the way you would put together a campaign.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it really becomes like just that conversation with the art director or creative, and then finding out what they want. It's super helpful always to get a mood board from a brand.
Yeah.
You want a shot list, so you want to know what you're shooting, and then a mood board. And sometimes like it can be, like a brand book with like lots of info, and like, more the better.
Sure.
But lots of times, like if it's a small brand, like even pulling like inspirational photos from Instagram and just putting on the keynotes, like 5 page, whatever, a couple pages where you just see like, okay, this is what you're looking for.
Totally.
And then, so it can go anywhere from fairly basic to like, pretty detailed.
Right.
Especially if you're shooting like a collection or something like that has like, 50 SKUs or plus, then you have to be pretty dialed.
Yeah. Programmed.
Yeah. And then lots of times I kind of take over like the production side of it too. And that's like, honestly, like photography, it's the actual shooting photos is like
The smallest part.
sometimes it's like 10%.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest part.
Right.
It's like, it's everything that leads up to that sort of makes the photo. So it's communicating with the client, figuring out what they want, really have that plan, like, okay, this is what we need to accomplish, and then finding a talent, that's huge. And wardrobe.
Does any of that fall on your?
Yeah, a lot of it is, yeah.
Okay.
And locations and all that stuff. And I'm pretty particular with that because, like, honestly, like the photo is
It's your vision.
the person,
Yeah.
the clothing, and location.
Right.
And then the rest is, you're just there to capture it.
Right.
But I like more like run and gun style. Like I love having a plan, but then have ability to sort of maneuver.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you're really fixed with the plan, and like you're hauling 20 people in a group, like you can't adapt. Like all of a sudden, like, oh, the light's changing, or like this is, and for me, the key is like those moments where they're very organic, like they almost look like they weren't planned.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the great moments come from. So you want to keep it like you want to leave it loose a little bit, I think, to be able to like create those really cool images.
What's like your turnaround time typically? Like by the time you like get reached out to by a brand or whatever to shoot to delivery?
So it depends on the scale of the shoot. So it just depends how much like pre-production there is.
Yeah.
So like if there's a lot of people involved, and it could be months.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be weeks or days.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, all depends like what it takes and what it entails. And then I do the post-production too. So it's like the editing and delivery, and honestly, I'm pretty fast with that. And for the most part, like if the client comes and they already like my style, it just makes it easier.
Sure.
And I like to usually determine the look of the images to prior shooting.
Right.
So like it would be nice to like go into the shoot already knowing like what is the feel and look for the
Right.
actual images. Like, are we shooting more like film grainy, or do we want it this? And just
Right.
because that just makes the workflow so much quicker. And then it also helps me even like shooting. It's like, okay, this is the style we're going.
Are you using presets often, just based on
Yeah,
time
so
of day?
I've created my own presets over a course of years, and I sort of have my go-to presets that I
Makes
just
sense.
apply. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's pretty
It's pretty standard,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's good. So you're a one-man band then?
Yeah, totally. And then I do, depends on the projects, I hire people. So like the
Cool.
last shoot we did for Thule, up in Bay Area, I hired a producer, and then he helped me with locations and talent and assistant and all that stuff. So, like when I did, like for instance, like Starbucks shoot, I hired like a digitech and the lighting guy and all that stuff. So it's just depends on the scope of the project.
Sure.
And you fill the team. Same thing, like sometimes I end up producing a video content too.
Yeah.
I don't shoot video, but then I hire a video guys that are right for that project. So for like the NV, for instance, like that's where I produced the video for them too, and then I hired the right guy that I thought like would kill it.
Totally. Do you hire locals that travel with you, or are you hiring local to the set? Or a
Usually
combination?
I just hire, like they just travel with me. It's just the kind of people that I know, and sometimes we've hired like local for like more like a grip or like a lighting or studio or something that sort. But like as far as like talent, I would rather just bring the people that I know.
Your son is a professional soccer player now in Finland, which is mind-boggling. He's 17. You were obviously a professional at a very young age as well, though. So, like, what advice have you given your son and/or like direction? Has there been any? I mean, the sports are different. He's playing
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good question. I think it's more maybe just him seeing like what I've done as far as career.
Yeah.
Like, I think for him, maybe it was more like normalized that you could be a pro athlete, because a lot of people like straight up, or parents say, hey, like, yeah, it's good you're doing this, but there's no way you can make a living.
Right.
I mean, I got that from snowboarding. I remember like people were like, yeah, like when are you gonna stop that
Right.
playing with that snowboard and start working? And even like when I was winning X Games, my grandma was still like, hey, when are you gonna stop snowboarding? I'm like,
Really?
yeah, I don't know, maybe next year.
Right. Right.
So I think he like for him to see that anything is possible, maybe. And yeah, it's funny, he just picked soccer. He was very like determined. Like he sort of had that what I had when I was a kid. Like I picked skateboarding. I was so determined. Like I'd never, like I don't think I had a plan. Like I wanted to be pro snowboarder, but I was very determined to be the best snowboarder I could be.
Sure.
And I see a lot of that with him, like determination and all that stuff. But yeah, he's gone. So he was 14. He got scouted for Philadelphia Union MLS. So we moved there, and then from there he moved to Real Salt Lake MLS. So then he played there till he was 16, and then the road kind of ends here with MLS, which is kind of crazy.
For development, you mean?
Yeah, it's quite sad because there's so many great athletes, soccer players that sort of just are left out without plan, because then they go to college, and if you go to college, it's you, as far as soccer goes, the college soccer is not where it should be.
Interesting.
So then the next step is really either you're good enough to do early pro contract, which is a lot for some of these kids too, because it's like you're 16, and so I don't think that's necessarily good avenue, and it's only few kids get picked, but yeah, he was lucky. He has a Finnish passport and a British passport, so he's already played some trials in England.
Cool.
And then he was already on the Finnish national team for soccer, and so a lot of the teams already had eyes on him. And so one of the better clubs offered him a spot, basically to play with the men's second team. So he moved there, and it's been awesome so far. So he's living on his own there, and
Wow.
he's 17, which is a trip. He's going. He was just in Croatia for the national team stuff, and now he's going to Portugal next week. Travels on his own. Yeah.
Wow. So he's gotten his own apartment.
Yeah, he's got his own apartment, fully independent, cooks his food, takes a train to Helsinki to see his girlfriend, and yeah, it's quite.
That's so rad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, that's great. I mean, only a year later, he'd be doing the same thing in college.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I would imagine like just like the level of responsibility just shoots through the roof too, you know, because you have to be responsible. You got to show up on time.
Yeah.
Practice. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff.
Yeah, he's learned a lot, and just taking care of himself, you know, food and laundry and all that stuff, you know. It's like,
so I went to boarding school my last 2 years of high school.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I wasn't a pro athlete, but I was certainly responsible for my own laundry and like
right.
just like simple responsibilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it puts you ahead in life, you know,
Yeah.
because it's a lot of kids here, you know, like they don't need to do that, you know, and it's just I think wherever the soccer goes for him, like he's already so much ahead, you know, like he knows what it takes to get what he wants, and just being ahead in life in general. So
That's cool.
yeah, we'll see.
Oh man, best of luck to him for
Thank
sure.
you.
Are you into golf at all?
I played a lot of golf when I was in Finland, when I had endless free time, but I haven't played golf for, I think, 5 years.
I was going to ask because there's a brand, Takomo. Have you heard of them? It's
no.
a Finnish golf club
Oh, okay.
brand. And it looks like they're producing really good stuff. So I was going to ask you if you're familiar with them. 'Cause
cool.
I've
Yeah, I
never
gotta
like
check it
used the
out.
clubs, but like they look sick.
Okay,
They
awesome.
like look really well made. And I know they're based in Finland, but how often do you get back?
About once or twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
so
pretty
I'm
good.
going to go this summer, probably sometime July.
Now, do you guys go to England as well?
Yeah, so Zoe goes to England, see her dad, and we used to go a lot when the kids were younger and did all the family stuff, but now it's just a little bit different.
Yeah. So how into watches are you?
A little bit. Yeah. So I bought my first watch when I was like 21.
What was it?
I think it was Amiga
Okay.
Seamaster, I think it was.
Nice.
And then I got IWC when like a few years later.
Chronograph?
I have to show it to you.
Yeah, cool.
I haven't, honestly. I don't think I've worn that for like 20 years.
So you still have it though?
I still have it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So were these like bonus checks you were buying watches with or what?
Yeah, it was just something that like I had watches before, and I was just fed up with shit's breaking all the time.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, I don't want to get a watch that's like, you know, legit.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know the watch space, or, you know, I wasn't super into it, but yeah, so. And then I got my Rolex. So this one is 1989. That's the year I started snowboarding.
Okay.
So it's a little vintagey.
So it's a nod to that. Is that what you got?
Yeah,
in
yeah.
89?
I've had this for probably like 17 years.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, and I used to snowmobile. Like it never came off. Like this is like such a workhorse.
So it's a sub date, and you keep it on a NATO, I guess, the whole time.
Yeah, I just love this thing because it's like, honestly, like it's been through hell.
Yeah.
And it just keeps on going. It's insane.
Did you engrave the back of it?
No.
Okay. Do you think you would ever engrave a watch?
Oh yeah, I would think. Like this is the watch I would give it to kids.
I just got one literally sent back to me this morning that I was having engraved. That's
Okay.
why I was asking.
Yeah,
It's
so
something I only recently started doing.
Okay, yeah,
But
that's cool. Yeah, I just love it because it's just it's just sort of like a forever piece, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people, like when you think of a watch, you think of that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just think of the Submariner. Do you have any other on the hit list, or are you kind of done?
I'm kind of done. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is fine.
Right.
This does the job.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. And the IWC, I think I'd actually like be down to get rid of it.
Really?
Because I don't have any.
You're not wearing it.
I've honestly like sort of like forgot about it, and then Zoe, my wife, found it somewhere, and then he's like, "Oh, you still have this thing?" I'm like, "Cool," but like I don't need watches. Like I love this.
Yeah,
it's great.
Right.
It does its purpose.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it's like I'm like, yeah. So if you have any tips.
I got you. Yeah, no, I'm the man for you, especially in the IWC.
Yeah, so I have I have 2 Omegas and this, and those would be the ones that I just leave it for the kids, and then cool. I think the IWC could find a home somewhere else.
Well, if you're like I always say, if you're not wearing it, man, let it be enjoyed by somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jussi, thank you so much, man. This was super fun. I really not only appreciate you taking me sort of down your own memory lane, but like sharing everything about the photography, and I certainly encourage everybody to check out your work. Where can they find you?
Probably Instagram is the best. Just my name.
Sure.
Jussi Oksanen.
I'll tag you, of course.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically just like stuff I do, work stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah.
All
thank you.
Yeah. Cheers.
This wraps up this episode of the Standard H podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show, as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.